I decided to run as independent for this mayor of Greater Manchester because I'm tired of party politics. I'm also tired of potentially people telling me what I can and can't say, and telling me that's not party policy, and telling me these are the policies you need to push, and you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that. And that's why I'm standing as independent, because I don't think I'm a party person.
Yeah, no, and I think, to be part of a party, you need to, they say, right, we are putting our trust in you to stand. And in that case, we trust in everything that you're going to say. Everything you're going to say must be in line or, with our way of thinking, because that's why we're trusting you, and free reign is what's needed. But I did want to go over the key pledges that you've got here, because I think it's important, because there's so many other issues. There's so many big issues that are happening across the country, rather than just grooming gangs and things like that. You've got climate change, which is a massive one. So we'll run through a couple of these, I suppose, now. So your first one there: scrap the money grabbing scheme known as Clean Air Zone, which is another form of ULEZ, which is another form of pay per mile and things like that. So in regards to that, then obviously this is something that is actually happening up there. Is it clean air zones as well?
Yeah, it was 6 weeks ago when I published my manifesto, but Andy Burnham must have read it, and a couple of days later he's now scrapped the clean air zone.
Hey, it's a victory to you then.
Well, I'm sort of joking, saying he read my manifesto. He probably doesn't know who I am, but that's not the end of the issue. So what he said was, while I'm mayor, there's not going to be any charging of motorists. While I'm mayor, we don't think he's going to be mayor this year. We think he's going to jump and be an MP and try to get to Parliament, stab Keir Starmer in the back and become Prime Minister. We think that's his plan.
Right. Yeah.
So my addition to this key pledge now is, not only am I going to scrap the CAZ, Clean Air Zone, I'm going to take down all the cameras and cancel all the contracts. Because if we don't do that, anybody who comes after me can flick a switch, and we've got a ULEZ, we've got a congestion charge. So we need to get rid of everything. Because my first thought was, let's keep all the cameras in place and we'll give them to the police. Be amazing. But, well, no, that's a scheme for tomorrow, for a clean air zone, for a ULEZ. The cameras have to go.
Absolutely. And there's some people already making sure that the cameras aren't staying up for very long. And
the Blade Runners.
They're in Wales as well. We've covered that one, the fix the police by turning it back into a police force. We've already gone over that with, obviously, the wokey sort of system. You've got, our inspector said the last 2 years of his career, it was, you have to go in and you have to do Black Lives Matter training, and you sit there for half a day, a full classroom of police officers who are on the clock. It's not done in overtime or spare time. They're on the clock learning in half a day about Black Lives Matter. So it is, like you said earlier on, bring it back to being.
I'll be stopping all this in Greater Manchester Police. So if I become mayor, the mayor of Greater Manchester is also the police crime commissioner of Greater Manchester. Most people don't know that. And Andy Burnham never talks about the police. What I'll be doing day one is I'll be scrapping things like the Black Officers Group, the LBGT Officers Group, the Muslim Officers Group. I'll be looking, because we don't need them. We're not doing identity politics anymore. I'll be revamping our recruitment policy. We're going to be looking at fitness. We're going to be increasing the merit of people. We're not going to do any more box ticking. We need a Bangladeshi person now. We need a woman now. All that goes. And if that means we end up with a 90% white, straight, male police force, well, I'm happy with that, because they're the best people for the job if it ends up like that. So I'm going to unwoke Greater Manchester Police.
Yeah, and that's it, because, naturally, you'd imagine that, there was a height, restriction before with the police. You had to be of a certain height. You'd imagine that, tall, white, straight men would naturally be more fitting for that sort of role, because that's what they're built for. But then you've got other roles then, which I think are naturally more for women, like being a nurse. I think the bedside manner and the things like that are more female sort of thing. They're naturally brilliant at it, and that's that's okay. We don't need to think, right, well, you don't really hear that we need more male nurses, do you?
No.
But you just need more female and whatever.
If you were being mugged in the street and you saw a police officer running towards you, would you want to see a 4'9", 7-stone woman police officer running towards you, or a 6'6" ex-rugby player police officer running towards you? There's your answer.
Exactly. Yeah. You mentioned this as well. Sack senior police officers who failed the victims of the grooming gangs. And like obviously you said this was written before the latest report that come out. So obviously it's been a priority of yours for some time.
Yeah, I had a police officer who, I don't know their name, they remained confidential when they spoke to me online. And they said to me, serving officer in Greater Manchester Police, they said, Nick, if we sacked 10 to 20% of all police officers in Greater Manchester, the ones who are failing, and they didn't replace them, they said our productivity would go up overnight. They said we're sending good officers, cleaning up the mistakes of our poor officers. If we got rid of the poor officers and didn't replace them, would be a better police force overnight. So I'm going to try to get rid of all those officers, but then I will replace them as well with better officers. That's how we deal with crime.
I look at it like this, Nick. If you were going for surgery, major surgery, you wouldn't want a box ticking person to do the job. You'd want the best surgeon possible, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and all this is also very insulting to excellent black police officers and Muslim police officers and gay police officers, because we look at them now in any field and we say, you only got that job because of that box ticking. And sometimes that's not the case. They happen to be amazing. I've worked with some amazing black police officers. So it's not that we'll have none. I just want the best ones. And I just want us to stop insulting ethnic minorities and other minorities by giving them jobs that they're not good enough for, and everybody else then judging them on that.
I absolutely agree. And that's exactly as it should be. And, it is insulting to the BAME community, I would say, to pin up that, right, okay, we obviously need to lower the standard for these people because they're not up to standard. That's what it says. And, it's just that's not the case at all, is it? Or it shouldn't.
Not at all.
But the next one, then you've got tackle knife crime by offering neighborhoods a vote on stop and search. And this is, again, really interesting because it's easy for the people like Sadiq Khan and Keir Starmer to say, we think it's against people's human rights for stop and search because they don't live in an area where they need it. But around other areas, it should be up to the people how they determine their safety.
Exactly. So I'm going to go to the people in every council ward in Greater Manchester. And I'm going to say to them every year at the council elections, there's going to be a mini referendum. So this will cost no money because the councils are holding the elections anyway. And we're going to give them a ballot paper. Do you want more or less stop and search in your area? If people vote no, we don't want any more, fine. You don't get any more. You don't get punished. You just don't get any more. In the areas who vote yes, I'd like more stop and search because I don't want my child dying in pools of their own blood outside my house. They get more stop and search. And then when the police are being accused of being racist, the answer is no. The people who live in this area asked us for more stop and search. And as the police, we're public servants and we're doing what we've been asked to do democratically by the people who live in this area. And if the people next year decide, no, we're sorry, we voted for that. Well, every year there's a referendum on this every year. So next year, don't vote for it and you won't have more stop and search. I'm tired of this being a political football because the people who suffer the most are black young men and their parents. They're the ones who are being stabbed to death. So let's give those parents the responsibility of protecting their children, and the rest is up to them. The police will do what the residents of those areas and communities want them to do and stop using it as a political football by the race baiters.
That's spot on. It's not, I would happily, if I lived in a place where, like New Year's Eve, London, for example, you had that story of that young lad, 16-year-old, who was stabbed
on Primrose Hill.
I would if I was living in an environment where that was the norm, which it is, it's part of the parcel of living in London, apparently. I would happily get searched, knowing that my children are going to be safer going around because the police are being proactive, not being again held for fear of being called a racist because of racial profiling, which is what they call. But where's the groups like Black Lives Matter on knife crime? Where are they then? Because that's what they should be. Because it is, it's young families who they got no alternative. Gang life is what they know and what they live by in places like London, and they've got no alternative because there's nobody around.
And of course, it's also the feckless fathers, isn't it, Nick? That have gone off and left these kids without proper parenting.
Yeah, I'd say it's both parents. It's feckless mothers, feckless fathers, feckless communities. It's feckless politicians who say to us, this is their culture. If they want to go around stabbing each other to death, who are we to say that's wrong? This is a multicultural. No. It's like the grooming gang thing. Weak politicians not doing the jobs we're elected to do. I don't care if you don't like being stopped and searched. If I'm saving your life and I'm saving your cousin's life and your friend's life. And again, if you don't want this, don't vote for it. But when your child dies, don't start complaining about the mayor and start complaining about the police because you voted against this.
Yes.
We've got to give some personal responsibility back to people and back to communities. Because if we don't, then governments end up just being dictators, telling them what we're going to do to you. This is an area we're doing these things to you. No. Get the people to consent what's happening. Get the people to come up with ideas. Get the people to agree because it's their neighborhoods, their communities, their family. And if they make the wrong decisions, well, they have to live with those decisions.
Yeah.
If you make a wrong decision, the best thing about making a wrong decision is it was your decision, which means you can correct it and do something better next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
This next one, create a free speech charter so everyone understands their rights. I think that's right. There was a judge that ruled that you can say things and it can be insulting. So what? And that's right. The trouble is now that we self-censor each other.
Yeah.
You can't say that. You can't say that. Well, yes, you can.
Yeah.
We've become a nation of cowards. I have friends say to me that certain conversations I've with them, they go, isn't it illegal to say that?
Yeah.
I go, no, it's not illegal to say that. But some people have been convinced over decades certain things are illegal to say now. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to commission a free speech union. We're going to hire some top barristers and we're going to come up with a easy to read charter that tells you what you can say and can't say and the reasons why. And I'm going to publish it on the mayor's website. So when you're in the street and you're preaching or you're at a demo and the police say to you, you can't say that, say it again, you'll be arrested. I want people to go, excuse me, officer, let me just Google the mayor's website. This is what it says on the mayor's website, and the mayor's your boss. So don't tell me I can't say that. That will give people the confidence to start sticking up for their own free speech. But it will also educate that police officer who may have thought he was doing the right thing, but then finds out, oh no, that isn't illegal. And this, well, the mayor can't make new laws. So all this will have to be based on existing law at the moment. And if it works in Greater Manchester, well, it can work through the whole country, the whole of the UK. I want people to know their rights in a really simple way of what they can say and what they can't say, because we're losing free speech through self-censorship, as you said, and through cowardice.
And also wokeism, because you can be prosecuted for standing on a street corner praying silently. You can be prosecuted for saying "love thy neighbor." Or Christ said, love one another. You can be prosecuted because it's hate speech. And yet you can seemingly, if you're on a Palestinian demo, sing from the rivers to the sea, Palestine will be free. And that's
the double standard in the two tiers.
There's a two-tier system here that usually works against us, as in free speechers, and not the woke.
Yeah. Well, you saw a great example of that was Tommy Robinson being pepper sprayed in the face. 40 police officers arrested him, and then they thought it was necessary to spray him in the face. 40 police officers. I mean, so forget why they arrested him, but the two-tier policing system is, can you imagine anybody else being pepper sprayed in the face once you've been arrested and handcuffed and you're surrounded by 40 officers? Can you name anybody else the police ever would have sprayed in the face?
And that's it, because you've got, the weekend just gone, Saturday just gone, you had the guy standing up basically saying about Hamas, they're not a terrorist organization, they're freedom fighters, they're fighting for justice and all this, which is a criminal offense. Showing support for a terrorist organization is a criminal offense. but then the police are standing there watching that.
Yeah.
Tommy Robinson, you know, that all that was, in my opinion, was a message to everybody watching, saying, "Don't mess with us."
Yeah.
You know, otherwise you're gonna get this treatment. And it, you know, it does show. And the ridiculous stuff that he's going through now, he's not allowed to enter London, his own capital city.
Yeah.
If he's going to do any interviews, he's got to ring a Muslim police officer.
Yeah.
He's got to give the details of who he's being interviewed by, give them all their details, and then get permission to go. And even though he was pepper sprayed, he's still in court, I believe, the beginning of next month, where he could be looking at going to prison for it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely bonkers.
A great example of the two-tier policing system. You know, the police are afraid to tackle anyone who's not a white working class male because they're afraid of being accused of an ism, of a phobia.
Yeah.
But if you're white working class male, you can get a good kicking off the police, and it's semi-legal.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This next one is quite brave.
It's a big one, isn't it?
End rough sleeping in 1 year, and I know that Manchester, particularly in the centre, is quite bad. You know, you've got a lot of charities there, a lot of church charities there that support rough sleepers. But how are you going to go about this, Nick?
So I've got 2 decades working with rough sleepers. First of all, when I worked for Manchester Council, I used to chair multi-agency meetings about how we were going to help individuals. They were attended by the NHS, the police, the council, drug services. So I know that point of view. And then when I set a charity up, we created projects around rough sleeping. So I've worked on the streets, getting people off the streets into accommodation, and then getting rough sleepers into jobs on building sites. So I've done all this work over 2 decades. I know what I'm talking about. So when I say rough sleeping, I don't mean homelessness. I don't mean building more houses. I don't mean fixing that huge problem. I mean stopping people living and dying in entries, covered in rats, lying in excrement. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it's easier than it looks, because most of the people you see on the street are not rough sleeping.
No.
They're just begging. They've all got accommodation. They dress like they're rough sleeping because that's how they get more money off people, through pulling at heartstrings. And the ones who are rough sleeping, they're difficult to work with because they're trapped in a 3-4 hour drug cycle. So they're begging for money for more drugs. So when you offer them help and support and accommodation, they say to you, well, I'd like to take it, but I need to sit here for another 3 hours because I need drugs in 4 hours time. So if I go with you for help, who's going to beg for money for money for me to spend on drugs? So I can't take your help. So how we overcome this problem in a year? In the first couple of months, we end begging in Greater Manchester. We end it because it's against the law, but it's legal now in Greater Manchester. No one cares. But we end begging, which stops the supply of drugs to people. In which case, all the people who have accommodation will stop begging and sitting down, because what's the point? I earn no money. And the ones who are rough sleeping, they take less drugs because there's no more begging. They're then in a better position to take help and support.
Yeah.
I'm going to create about 3 or 4 hostels in Greater Manchester, which will be disused warehouses. We're going to fill them with garden sheds. So each shed will be an independent living pod. And we'll move people off the streets into there straight away. We'll have security, we'll have police, we'll have all the services visiting these hostels for drug support, for mental health support. They can take their dogs, we'll build kennels. That's not a problem. People will say, I want help, but you won't let me take my dog in the hostels. We'll build kennels. How difficult is this? Build a kennel. So all the problems they have, we'll overcome. And then after a couple of months of doing this, we'll then enforce the Vagrancy Act, which means if you're rough sleeping in Greater Manchester, we're not having it. You'll be moved on. You'll be arrested. Because there's
the times I've spoke to a police officer and said enforce the Vagrancy Act, and they've gone, what? And it's 1889, I think it is, and they go mad because they're as woke as the council. I've done it in Swansea, where I've been for the last few years,
my policy is not about punishing rough sleepers.
No,
I'm doing this because, like the grooming gang thing, I'm sick of my fellow citizens dying in the streets. While we step over them, while we watch them, while they're having mental health episodes, while they're destroying their own bodies and their own mental health, and then they die when it gets a bit colder. I can't watch this.
No.
And if we can't get our fellow citizens off the street, then you shouldn't be a politician. You
No.
should be working for the council. You should be working for one of these charities. And the reason why we don't do it is if it takes a backbone. And no one's got a backbone to fix this problem. Everyone knows how to fix this problem. We fixed it before in the 80s. But everyone's afraid now of being called nasty and a Nazi online.
Yeah.
So we'll get accusations to the police. Is that the best you can do, picking on homeless? No, there's real criminals out there. But the answer is that person begging is funding organised crime by buying drugs.
Correct.
And they're dying on this street. It's going to take them 3 years, but they're dying. So ignoring that person and pretending you're virtuous because you're giving them a sandwich. No, you're not virtuous. You're helping them commit suicide.
Yeah.
And we need to wrap our arms around vulnerable people in this country and help them into a better life, not support them making the wrong choices and dying.
Yeah, we interviewed again in Swansea. We interviewed people that were homeless, genuinely homeless, and we got attacked by the council leader who said that they're offered a place to sleep.
Bed for the night. They got a policy
a bed for the night.
Yeah.
But then when you speak to them, they have to get 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 miles away. And they can't take the dog, as you say, or this, that, and the other. So it meant nothing to them.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
so having policies that are meaningless, is correct.
Lip service again.
It is lip service. So I commend you for that, Nick.
It's again. Let me go back to the grooming gang scandal. We're treating our homeless people like we treated those girls. You don't deserve a good service off us. You don't deserve anything. You're scum. You should be lucky we're offering you anything.
Yeah.
That's how we treat our fellow citizens.
Yeah.
We'll go on to the next one there. Promote the family as the foundation of our society. So that's another brave one.
Yep.
In today's day and age. But what do you mean by this?
I mean, nearly all our policies for the last 70 years are slowly destroying the family. And it's the family that keep us safe. The family was the original welfare state.
Yes.
When you had no money, when you're on hard times, your family helped you out, and you helped your family out. And the reason why you went to your family is because they love you and they want the best for you. The state doesn't love you. The state doesn't want the best for you. The state only wants the best for politicians. Your family would hold you to account, help you get work, make sure you pulled your weight, and you weren't, swinging the lead. That was the original welfare state, but we destroyed the family. Yeah. And then start looking at single parent households. I grew up in a single parent household, so I'm not necessarily criticizing single mums, but again, I am. We now financially reward women to make the wrong choices.
Yeah.
So don't have a husband, don't have a man in your house, and we'll pay you more. And all the reports from every university and every government report tells us that children brought up in single parent households do the worst in life. But yet we keep funding those lifestyles more and more and more. Yeah. We also fund, we've also removed social shame for men who abandon their children, because we say to those men, we'll pay for your responsibility. The state will pay for what you should be paying for your kids. And then feminist policies we've introduced over the last 70 years is emasculated men. We've demonized men, demonized masculinity. Men don't know what they are anymore now. Men have now walked away from their responsibilities. Let's go back to the grooming gang scandal. 99% of all the girls who are abused in grooming gang scandals come from fatherless homes. Yeah. Because fathers are the natural protectors of children. And when you don't have a natural protector, you're easy meat. Yeah. You're easy meat for pedos, you're easy meat for criminal gangs. But when you've got a father living in your house, somebody else knows you have a protector. They know. They risk violence if they mess with those children because they don't know what that father is going to do. So all these policies, we keep damaging the family, which is damaging children, which is damaging communities, which damages everything. And that's what I'm going to try to get away from.
Yeah. And I just pull this up on screen because, as you said, easy meat. That's exactly what this book goes into, isn't it? And it goes into the background of the grooming gangs and how they're targeted, because it is, but again, you come back to the state. Then the state are all too happy to take charge of your child.
Yeah, they want to break up the nuclear family, and I applaud you, Nick, because I'm all in support of keeping and bringing back and promoting the nuclear family.
Yeah. And we need to bring back societal shame.
Yes.
That's what used to keep us in check. That's why poor housewives used to spend an hour every week cleaning the step going into their house and making it red. It was a stupid thing to do, but if you didn't do it, you were socially shamed on your street.
You were.
When I was a kid, my mum used to say to me, "Don't you ever bring the police to this house." Now you can have police raiding your house. It's socially acceptable. We need to bring back societal shame to start keeping us all back in track.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, societal shame, as well as the next one there, the people who hold public office shame, where you create a waste and incompetence watchdog to inform the public how their taxes are being squandered. And I think that's important because we looked into it when it was local council elections, and you got councillors who are getting expenses for childcare, and they're using that childcare when they are home preparing for the next day's meeting, and the beneficiary of that childcare money is her flaming husband.
Yes.
And it's like, that was just from looking through the expense. It's all available online. It says it all. But people don't know this. And I'm sure that if people were, the politicians, councillors, MPs, it was put up on everybody's wall of this is what they're spending your money on, they think twice about squandering it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to go a lot deeper than that. What I want to do is I want to create this watchdog that starts highlighting waste and incompetence. So a good example would be Greater Manchester Police. A couple of years ago, they spent 30 million on a new computer system that didn't work. I would want to know who signed that off.
Yeah.
Who would have senior officers sign off, because they need sacking, but if you can't sack them, they need shaming, naming and shaming, like the NHS. So if the NHS paints a rainbow crossing on their land that costs 50 grand, I want to name the head of service, the head who signed that off, because at the moment our civil servants don't have skin in the game. Their budgets are renewed every year. And they can make mistakes, and politicians are so afraid of that mistake hitting the headlines they cover it up. I'm going to be the opposite of that. I'm going to be the crazy mayor who starts holding press conferences and showing the world all the waste and incompetence in Greater Manchester. And I will name senior civil servants so the people can get angry and the people can start shouting for these people to be sacked. Because once civil servants realise their skin in the game, they'll start working a lot harder and make better decisions. I want a top civil servant going, right, we've got this new project. I better make sure this works, because that crazy mayor we've got will name and shame me if this goes wrong, because he'll find out about it. So we better make sure this is spot on. And that's how I want our public services running in Greater Manchester.
There's plenty of fantastic bands in Manchester and the Greater Manchester area, and I'm sure that they'll make a song about you, crazy Nick.
And the reason why politicians and the mayor doesn't do this now, because he's planning for his future career. He can't afford to make political enemies, because he wants to PM. He wants to be, PM. I'm going to do this job, and at the end of it, if everybody hates me and everybody votes me out in 3 years' time, that's fine. At least I know I did a good job when I was in, and I changed things. I'm not in it for the long term. So I don't care upsetting people and making, civil servants, making other political parties, making the elite despise and hate me. I'll live with that. It's a badge of honour.
Yeah. Excellent.
Brilliant.
And the next one we did kind of skirt over earlier on, support Bolton to have a referendum on if they wish to be part of Greater Manchester. And what the best thing about this is, like you said, it's not necessarily something you support or don't support, but there is a conversation going on around it. And as an advocate for democracy, the people should be having that say to what happens in their area.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So that's that's as fair as it can get, And then the next one, I always love something like when the Brexit party went into the EU and to get themselves out, or when you've got parties going into the Senedd, they want to destroy the Senedd.
Yeah.
You've got the one there, give people the referendum if they want to keep the position of mayor. So that again is prepared to go in to make yourself unemployed, and that shows your commitment, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Over the last couple of years, when I've been talking about standing, people have said to me, Nick, I'm not going to vote for you to be mayor because I don't want a mayor in the first place. No one ever asked us, did we want a mayor? George Osborne forced this mayor upon us.
Yeah.
There was no election. We were given it. That's why I'm not voting for you, Nick. And I thought, right, I need to address this. And the only way to address it is to say, we have a hole in our democracy in Greater Manchester around the mayor. So if I'm elected, I will give the people of Greater Manchester an opportunity to tick that democracy box. I'll hold a referendum across the whole of Greater Manchester, and we will see if the people want a mayor or not. And if you do, great. And if you don't, I'll go to Westminster and we'll get rid of it. We'll give them the problem to solve. Because it's not democracy when people can force new layers of bureaucracy on you. And do we need a mayor? Do we need this extra layer? And I might be an amazing mayor, but what about the mayor who comes after me? What about the mayor we've got now?
Yeah.
You know, they're not doing anything. They're making things worse. They're feathering their own nests and their own political nest. So do we want to take that chance? Keir Starmer said the other day that if he becomes Prime Minister, he's going to be giving Andy Burnham more powers and tax-raising powers. It's like, Jesus Christ, we're going to turn into Scotland. It's like we can't have. I'm almost at the point now where I think I'm probably 80-20 in favour of voting no. We don't want a mayor as well.
And it's the same with the Police and Crime Commissioner post, isn't it? That was also foisted upon us. And they've become political.
I was a big supporter of them in the beginning. I thought that's what we needed for the people to hold the police accountable. But what quickly happened is they became political appointees.
Yeah.
And I think if we keep police crime commissioners, I think they should be non-political party related. I don't think you should be able to stand as the Labour candidate, as a Tory candidate, as any sort of candidate, if you're connected to a political party, because that's all they are now, is an arm of the Labour Party, arm of the Tory Party. They should be independent people. Yeah. So I'm still for them, but not the version we've got at the moment, because we need someone independent who will hold the police accountable and listen to the people and get the police to do what the people want them to do as public servants. If you like that video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell and comment. And if you like what I'm saying about running for Mayor of Greater Manchester, then stick around. Tell your family, tell your friends. The only way I'm going to have a chance of winning is a grassroots movement. So be part of that movement and hit that bell. Thanks.